Hello, I'm Paul Barter from Reinventing Transport and the Reinventing Parking podcast, and I'm going to talk about parking and this COVID-19 emergency and its aftermath. I'm planning to talk in three sections. The first section will be about parking and the depths of the crisis. The second one will be as cities are emerging from the crisis but not yet back to normal. And thirdly, what we might expect in the long run, or we might hope and try to achieve in the long run, maybe even hoping to build back better. So let's start with the depths of the crisis. Some cities are past that, and many cities are still in the midst of the pandemic crisis. An immediate thing that many cities have done in the middle of the crisis is to temporarily suspend parking management. So parking pricing is off, no parking enforcement. And that is mostly reasonable. It seems unreasonable to be charging for parking if the demand is almost gone. But be careful, parking enforcement, part of it at least, is about safety. And if you suspend parking enforcement completely, you may be endangering people. There'll be some dangerous parking which will cause accidents. Be careful. Cities also need to make sure that if parking management is still in place, that staff have safe work practices during the pandemic, of course. Parking wardens need to be kept safe. In the middle of the pandemic, many cities have initiated special deals for health workers or for other essential workers, free parking. I've seen this in many examples around the world. And of course, that is a great gesture and easy to implement, since normal parking demand is extremely low in the middle of the crisis. Many cities have also temporarily allowed parking facilities to be used for emergency uses. Hospitals have spilled out into parking areas in some cases. Parking areas have been used for testing facilities in some cases. Sometimes that's controversial if not enough provision is made for people to be tested if they don't own a car. But it still is a reasonable use of parking space. In most cities, sit-down restaurants are not operating, cafes are not operating for sit-down dining, and so deliveries, takeout is the norm, and there's a lot more need for curbside space for picking up, dropping off, and deliveries. One prominent way that parking has featured during this pandemic One prominent way parking has featured in this pandemic has been the repurposing of curbside parking for safe distancing. Sometimes this means removing a few vehicles, a few parking spaces, so that the queues outside busy shops can be accommodated safely and people can walk by without being too close. In some cases, it's extending footpaths to make them wider. In some cases, it's temporary pop-up bicycle lanes. And we've seen these all over the world, especially Latin America and Europe, and to some extent in North America too. Now, the parking industry, especially the off-street commercial parking garages and lots, just like many other businesses, have seen a huge drop in demand for their main service. And just like other businesses, that's causing hardship. Many employees either furloughed or let go. And the issues there are not unique to parking. It's the need there is to help various medium-sized small businesses cope with this immediate crisis and still be there after the crisis, because their services will be needed again.